Imagine this. You're unloading boxes into your dream home, the one you fought tooth and nail to buy, when suddenly a woman storms up, red-faced and screaming, "You can't live here! This is my neighborhood." But here's the twist. Your house isn't even in her precious HOA. What happens next will have you hooked, cheering for justice and savoring every second of a takedown so satisfying it'll leave you grinning from ear to ear. If you've ever dealt with a power-hungry neighbor who thinks they own the block, or if you just love a good story where the underdog flips the script on a bully, smash that like button right now, subscribe for more Reddit revenge tales that hit right in the feels, and buckle up. This one's a roller coaster of frustration, fury, and ultimate triumph. Let me paint the scene for you. Because this story isn't just about a house. It's about that gut-wrenching feeling when someone tries to strip away your hard-earned peace. Our guy, let's call him Alex, was in his mid-30s, a tech support worker who'd been grinding for years. Picture him hunched over his desk, the blue glow of his monitor burning his eyes late into the night, fingers cramped from typing through overtime shifts. Every extra dollar went into his savings, a piggy bank he smashed open for one dream, a home of his own. Not some cramped apartment with paper-thin walls where you hear your neighbor's every sneeze, but a real house, a sanctuary. After months of scrolling real estate apps until his thumbs ached, he found it. A cozy ranch-style place on the edge of a suburban subdivision. It had everything. A big yard for his dog to chase squirrels, a quiet street, and best of all, it was just outside the local HOA's boundaries. Alex wasn't taking any chances. He'd heard horror stories about HOAs, those petty overlords who fine you for painting your mailbox the wrong shade of beige. So he drove to the county clerk's office, the smell of old paper and dust filling his nose as he pored over maps under flickering fluorescent lights. His heart raced as he traced the property lines with a trembling finger. The HOA's territory stopped dead at his lot. He was free. No mandatory dues, no rules about how many Christmas lights he could string up. When he signed the papers, his pen scratched across the page with a finality that felt like shedding a heavy coat in spring. "This is mine," he thought, picturing lazy Sundays mowing the lawn on his terms, maybe even planting a vegetable garden just because he could. Moving day was a blur of sweat and excitement. The sun beat down on Alex's back as he hauled boxes from the U-Haul, his muscles aching but his heart soaring. His dog, a scruffy mutt named Rusty, bounded around the yard, tail wagging like a metronome. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass and possibility. Alex paused to wipe his forehead, grinning as he imagined barbecues, maybe a hammock under the oak tree. That's when she appeared. Karen, the self-appointed dictator of the cul-de-sac. She marched across the street in a pastel tracksuit, her clipboard clutched like a royal scepter, her face twisted in that universal expression of someone who thrives on control. Her hair was sprayed into a helmet of perfection, but her eyes, those eyes burned with the kind of fury that could melt steel. "You can't park that truck here," she barked, her voice slicing through the warm air like a knife. Alex froze, a cardboard box heavy in his arms, sweat trickling down his spine. "Excuse me?" he said, keeping his tone polite, though confusion churned in his gut. Karen jabbed a manicured finger at the street. "This is HOA property. You need permission to block the road. And who are you, anyway? You can't just move in without approval." Alex's stomach twisted, that first pang of injustice hitting like a sucker punch. He set the box down, wiping his hands on his jeans, and explained, "Ma'am, my house isn't in the HOA. I checked the maps." But Karen's face flushed a deeper shade of red, her lips pursing into a thin, angry line. "Nonsense," she snapped. "You're on the edge. That means you're part of us. You'll follow our rules or you'll regret it." She spun on her heel and stormed off, leaving Alex standing there, heart pounding, a knot of anger forming in his chest. "Who does she think she is?" he muttered, his fists clenching so tight his nails bit into his palms. That was just the beginning. Karen didn't let up. She escalated like a storm brewing on the horizon, dark and unstoppable. The next morning, Alex found a violation notice taped to his front door. The paper crisp and official-looking, handwritten in Sharpie with demands to hide his trash bins and submit a landscaping plan. His blood boiled. He could feel the heat rising in his cheeks, his pulse thumping in his ears. "This isn't fair," his mind screamed. "I worked so hard for this and now some stranger's trying to ruin it." He tore the notice down, the paper crinkling in his fist, but Karen kept coming. She'd drive by in her shiny SUV, her eyes glaring through tinted windows like a predator sizing up prey. She'd corner him while he walked rusty, her voice dripping with condescension as she lectured about how his unkempt yard was tanking property values. "You don't belong here if you can't maintain standards." She'd snap, each word a jab to his pride. Alex felt the frustration mounting, that deep, gnawing resentment when someone underestimates you, treats you like you're less than nothing just because they can. Nights, he'd lie awake, the ceiling fan whirring above, its hum doing nothing to drown out the replay of Karen's words in his head. "Why me?" He'd think, his jaw tight, his stomach churning with that powerless rage we've all felt at some point, when someone tries to control what's rightfully yours. Karen wasn't just nosy. She was a bully, the kind who thrived on making others feel small. As HOA president, she'd already cowed the neighborhood into submission, fining people for minor infractions like unapproved flower beds or leaving a bike in the driveway too long. Neighbors whispered about her in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously, but no one dared stand up. Until Alex. The breaking point came one humid evening, the air thick with the scent of charcoal from Alex's grill. He was flipping burgers in his backyard, the sizzle and pop of grease a small comfort, when he heard a strange clipping sound. His stomach dropped as he peeked over the fence. There was Karen directing two landscapers to trim his hedge, on his property. His heart hammered, adrenaline surging like a jolt of electricity. "Stop!" he yelled, his voice shaking with fury, his hands trembling as he gripped the fence. Karen didn't even flinch. She just smirked, her eyes glinting with smug satisfaction. "It's for the good of the community," she said, her tone so patronizing it made Alex's skin crawl. That was it. The moment something snapped inside him. His mind roared, "Enough!" She's crossed the line. He grabbed his phone, fingers fumbling as he dialed the sheriff, snapping photos of the trespassers, the hedge clippings scattered like evidence of a crime. From that moment, Alex wasn't just reacting, he was planning. Not revenge in the petty sense, but a calculated stand to expose Karen for what she was. He installed security cameras around his property, their red lights blinking like watchful eyes in the dusk. To test her, he leaned into the chaos, dotting his yard with bright pink plastic flamingos, those tacky, in-your-face decorations that screamed freedom. He planted them at odd angles, their spindly legs wobbling in the breeze, a deliberate middle finger to Karen's obsession with control. Sure enough, she lost it. She pounded on his door the next morning, her face contorted in rage, her voice shrill enough to wake the dead. "Take those down! You're ruining everything!" she screamed, her hands flailing like she could physically tear the flamingos from the ground. Alex stood in his doorway, arms crossed, his heart racing but his voice steady. "My property, my rules," he said, the words tasting like victory, though inside he braced for her next move. Karen doubled down, her attacks growing bolder, more desperate. She rallied HOA members at a meeting, her voice booming through the community center as she claimed Alex's house was annexed by proximity, threatening liens and lawsuits. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably in their folding chairs, some nodding along out of fear, others exchanging glances that said, "She's gone too far." Karen didn't stop there. Under cover of night, she crept onto Alex's property, ripping up his flamingos, their plastic beaks snapping as she tore them from the dirt. The next morning, Alex woke to find "Get Out" spray-painted in red across his garage door, the paint dripping like blood. His heart sank, a cold wave of violation washing over him. But as he reviewed the security footage in the dim glow of his laptop, his jaw clenched. She's digging her own grave, he thought, saving every clip, every photo, building a case as airtight as a vault. He didn't act alone. Neighbors, fed up with Karen's reign of terror, started confiding in him. There was Sarah, a single mom who'd been fined for her kids' chalk drawings on the sidewalk. Tom, an older guy who'd paid hundreds for unapproved window blinds. They met in Alex's living room, the air heavy with shared frustration, their voices low but determined. "She's been running this place like her personal kingdom," Sarah whispered, her hands twisting nervously. "Somebody's got to stop her." Alex nodded, his resolve hardening like steel in a forge. He reported every incident to the sheriff, the county, even the state's HOA oversight board, his fingers flying across his keyboard as he typed up complaints, attached videos, and cited property laws. Each click felt like a step toward justice, his pulse steadying with purpose. Karen's final mistake was her boldest. Desperate to assert control, she blocked the street leading to Alex's house with cinder blocks, claiming it was HOA jurisdiction to keep outsiders out. Alex stood on his porch, watching her direct the blockade, her voice shrill as she shouted orders at a hired crew. His hands shook with anger, but he kept his cool, dialing the county again. Within hours, officials rolled up, sirens cutting through the quiet morning, their boots crunching on gravel as they dismantled the blocks. Karen's face turned purple, her voice cracking as she screamed, "This is my street!" The deputy just shook his head, his expression a mix of pity and exasperation. "Ma'am, this is public property." Step aside, but Karen couldn't stop herself. In a last-ditch effort, she called 911, her voice trembling with fake fear as she claimed Alex had threatened her with a gun. The lie was so bold, so reckless, that it sent a chill down Alex's spine when police cars screeched into his driveway, lights flashing, officers shouting for him to come out with his hands up. His heart stopped, terror gripping him as he stepped onto his porch, palms raised, the cold metal of handcuffs looming in his mind. "I didn't do anything," he called, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. The officers searched his house, their boots heavy on his hardwood floors, but Alex's cameras told the real story. Grainy footage showed Karen sneaking around his property. No gun in sight, just her vindictive rage. The lead officer's face hardened as he watched the clips on Alex's laptop, his jaw tightening. "False report," he muttered, radioing for backup, this time for Karen. The climax hit like a thunderclap. Officers approached Karen, still standing by her SUV, her arms crossed defiantly. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for filing a false police report," one said, his tone flat but firm. Karen's eyes widened, her mouth dropping open as if the world had tilted beneath her. "What? This is outrageous." "Do you know who I am?" she shrieked, her voice echoing off the houses as neighbors peeked from behind curtains. The handcuffs clicked shut, the sound sharp and final, and Karen's face crumpled. Shock, humiliation, and the dawning realization that her power was gone. She was led to the squad car, her head bowed, her tracksuit wrinkled, her empire of control collapsing in front of everyone she'd terrorized. Alex stood on his lawn, watching the car pull away, a wave of triumph crashing over him. His knees felt weak, relief flooding through him like cool water after a fire. "It's over," he whispered, his eyes stinging with tears he hadn't expected. The weight of months of harassment lifted, replaced by a soaring sense of validation, of justice hard won. Neighbors clapped him on the back, their faces lit with gratitude and awe. Sarah hugged him, tears in her eyes, saying, "You did what we couldn't." Even Rusty seemed to sense the victory, barking and spinning in circles. The fallout was swift. Karen was removed as HOA president, her reputation in tatters. The board, shamed by the exposure, rolled back their draconian rules, and the neighborhood breathed easier, like a town freed from a tyrant's grip. Alex's flamingo stayed, a quirky symbol of his stand, and he even added a few more, their pink plastic gleaming in the sun. He'd sit on his porch at dusk, sipping a beer, the cicadas humming, feeling a peace he'd fought for, a peace that tasted sweeter because of the battle. This story hits because it's more than a neighbor dispute. It's about standing up when someone tries to crush you, about that universal craving for fairness when you're wronged. Alex didn't set out for revenge. He just wanted his home, his life, his freedom. But when pushed, he pushed back, and karma did the rest. It makes you think, how many Karens are out there bullying because they think they can? And how good does it feel when someone says no and makes it stick? If this tale of HOA havoc and heroic payback gave you that rush of righteous anger and relief, hit that like button to show your support. Drop a comment below with your own neighbor nightmare or the best revenge you've seen. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more emotionally charged Reddit stories coming your way. Thanks for watching, and remember, stand your ground, folks. See you next time.